What we got here? 1942, Martin D18. In 1942, these had an ebony truss rod, and I can show you that by finding a magnet. Here's a magnet. Magnet doesn't stick. Doesn't stick. Ebony truss rod. All right, ebony truss rods are cool because they're really light and everything. The problem is they're not really super strong compared to a T-bar that they had before this. But they had to go to ebony because 1942 is the start of getting into World War II and metal shortages. And so everybody's reducing their use of metal. Most of the guitars, a lot of guitars from this time period don't even have headstock grommets up here. So they're reducing metal in every possible way. They used ebony truss rods. They bow a little bit. You get too much neck relief. So that's what the problem is with this guitar. And we need to probably do a compression refret on this. Now, a compression refret is when you take frets and they have different sized tangs. The tang is the part that goes into the neck. You can get them in different thicknesses. Jeshkar sells them, and Martin used to sell them. That's where I got mine. My stock over here that's back behind me. I'll show it to you in a minute. I got that from, actually I got it from Jim Granger, who got it from Martin. And I've had it for a long time. I don't do a lot of compression refrets because most of the time it's not needed. There's other ways to do it. But when you got to do it, you got to do it. Now, a compression refret doesn't really, you can't force the neck back. What you're doing, because when you do that, it's going to, over time, it's going to compress into the wood again, and it's going to come back up again. And I've just never really had great success, long-term success, with a compression refret. Even though it starts out great, in about 5 years or so, it's coming back up again. So the second strategy that you might want to use is to reshape the fingerboard a little bit. Reshape it so that you get the amount of lack of relief that you want for what the fingerboard naturally wants to do. And then you use the compression frets to just help add some strength to that. And so the combination of the two can make it real stable, and you can take care of this. So let me show you, first of all, why this guitar needs a compression refret. Now, the first thing, the easy way to check relief is to hold it up here and hold it at the first fret, hold it down here at the 13th fret, and check it right here. And then this particular guitar is not too bad because somebody has cut the relief into the frets. So in other words, when you can level the frets such that the fret surface themselves is pretty good. That's not a bad way to do it, but I think we can make this guitar play better by working on the fingerboard. The second way is to take a notch straight edge like this, and this is really handy. Now, at the other shop, I've got a cheap one that somebody gave me, and it actually has one more set so that it sticks up here. And it's actually a little nicer because you can measure this area in the first fret, which a lot of times is your problem. So you get this straight edge like that, set it on there, find your feeler gauges, which are hiding out on the bench here somewhere. Find out how much relief you got here. The advantage of this is that this is a metal surface, and you put it down on here, and you get a pass-fail. So in other words, where are we? Oh, here we go. I'm trying to put it there. There we go. So when I look at this, right through here, we have quite a bit of relief. I'm going to bring the camera over and let's see if we can get it. We'll see if we can get it on the camera so that you can see what I'm talking about a little bit better. Bear with me. Sandbag's in the way. Let me get this sandbag out of the way. There we go. Look at that. There's your relief. You saw it. I got the camera to work. Man, I show you, these GoPros are really, really handy for this stuff. You know, I just started using GoPros a couple of years ago to do these kind of videos. They're so good. Because you can get them close like that. All right, so what we're going to do, you've seen the relief. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually measure. And we're going to come in here. We're going to measure for consistency's sake. It doesn't really matter, but let's measure at the 7th fret here. 6th to 7th fret. That's halfway in between here. And it'll be pretty, that'll be about the same, but you're going to get some feeler gauges. You're going to come in here. I'm going to angle over here so you can see what I'm doing. Normally I would work the other way, but my hand's blocking the view. Get this right here on the edge so that you can see. Drop that on there. I'm going to take 12 thousandths of an inch and I'm going to slide it under here. In fact, we're going to go to the 6 so that we avoid the pearl dot, because that pearl dot might be raised just a little bit. 12 is going under there with no problem on. I would like to see 4 to 6 thousandths of an inch, and so 12 is basically twice as much relief as I want to see. I have a bunch of videos on the effect of relief and the problems that it causes and all of that thing. So if you think that you need a lot of relief, you might want to go review those videos. So here's 16. 16 is still clearing. Not bad. Now, I'm going to take this 16. I'm going to keep running it up and down the neck here. Okay, so it's not going in. It's pretty, I can feel the friction, and it's not going in up here, so we don't have much more than that. Let's start 14. 14's going in there, 14, 14, just tight. What I'm doing is I'm identifying how much curve is in that neck. There's quite a bit of curve. The curve is extending over a lot of the neck, but the peak of it is, in fact, at the 6th fret here. Here's a 14 up in here. And it's just a little tight. 12 will go under there. 12's going under. 12 does not go into there. 12 is a little tight at the 12th fret. So we got 16 thousandths, 14, and 12. So that tells us that we have a pretty good curve in the neck. If I got 16 at every single point, that'd tell me that I had kind of a stepped neck, like this, which I have seen before. And that generally indicates that the 1st fret is alone and up here is high. So you could sand away at that 1st fret and reduce the step. So you got a step like this, and I've seen that. That's generally a fingerboard issue. And if you take away this step here, you can flatten that relief out. All right, so what we have is 16 thousandths and 14 and 12. Now I'm going to write this down. So at the 6th fret, 6th fret equals 16 thousandths of an inch. All right, we're going to need that number here in just a minute. So your first step here is to figure out what your neck looks like, what the issue is, where the issue is, and just what's going on that thing. Now, also with this guitar is the 1st fret here, the nut slots are really low. And I can fret here at the 2nd fret, and they are touching the 1st fret. Also, these frets are very, very low and flat. Let's get a look at this if we can. Frets are very low, very flat. I think I measured them at the other shop to be about 25 thousandths of an inch or so. And that's way too low. 30. 30. 30 is my minimum, so it doesn't matter. Let's see if we can't get a good look at the flatness of this fret here. Especially right there. You see how flat top that is right there? And you're just not going to get very good tone. If you go watch the video of me playing all the instruments, and I'm playing this guitar, and when I went up the neck on it, I stopped because I said, man, these frets are so low and so flat, the note is just not even clear. And I just quit playing. Up there I went back down, but up here they're very flat. Let's take a string. Watch the shadow of the string here. Watch the shadow. And that shows you the crown of the thing. And you can see that shadow going straight across that fret. At least I can. Sitting here, I don't know if that'll come through in the camera. When that shadow goes straight across the fret, that means the top of the fret is flat. And when they're low and flat like that, it just ain't gonna work. So this guitar definitely needs to be refretted. And so we are going to use compression frets to get two birds with one stone here. All right, so we got the neck mapped out. All right, now what we're going to do, we're going to take the strings off, and then we're going to put sandbags on the body until we get that amount of relief again. And what that's going to do is tell us how much weight do I need to put on the body to mimic the pull of a set of strings. And then I will have that information, and I'm going to use it down the road when I do the compression frets. I'm going to put those sandbags back on the body, and I will see how my relief is doing. So it's a way to gauge how your relief is doing as you're working on it. When you do compression frets, you cannot just slap other frets in there. You've got to put like 2 frets in and skip 2 fret slots, and you've got to check your relief as you're going to see how much you're bending that neck back, or how much, you know, what are you doing to it. So it's very, very useful. It's critical to map it out and find out how everything is going to react. If you want to do a precision compression refret, and you do, you've got to have this information. But we're going to take the strings off, and while the neck is still hot, I guess I would call it, because it's still kind of under, you know, it hasn't rebounded from the lack of tension yet. So I'm going to immediately check it. In other words, if I let the guitar sit for 2 or 3 days, the neck would rebound from the string tension, and you would not get a very accurate measurement. Consequently, I mean, in the same vein as when you start doing this compression refret, you need to kind of get on it. You know, it's not a good idea to work for 5 minutes and put the guitar up. You need to get on it and get it done, because the neck will rebound and will relax and that kind of thing. So 2 things are going to happen here. I'm going to see how much sandbag it takes to bring that relief back in, and I want to see how much, what's happening here right now when there's no tension on this neck. So I'll bring my straight edge back here, and this is where the cheaping is really good, because I would really like to measure this right here, but the Stu Mac gauge doesn't let you do that right now. I would like to measure that to see how proud that is, because the fingerboard will drop away when it's not under tension, and I really want to know what that first fret is, and this one won't tell me that. So I wish Stu Mac could make this one more length, and I might just go hunt down another one of those inexpensive ones and give this one away or something. So generally you're going to have about 10 inches of fall away. It's fighting me. You're generally going to have about 10 inches, no, I'm sorry, not 10 inches, 10 thousandths of an inch of fall away right here. So we're going to put this up here, set that there, and let's see what we get here. And there is a little bit of fall away right here. 6 thousandths of an inch is tight. You got to hold this over here at the body so that it's clear of everything. And 6 thousandths is a little bit tight. Let's try 8. 8's going, so that's not bad. 12 is tight, just 10 thousandths of an inch. But because it's an ebony truss rod, when you get tension on it, it's going to come up more than a steel rod would. So a steel rod would be about 10 thousandths of an inch. But now we're going to set this up here. And don't panic, because we're going to put weight on the headstock. But what you're going to do is you're going to put your sandbag up under the nut right here. And it's going to support right here. So it's the same as the string tension. You got strings fastened to the headstock, and it's fine. I'm gonna get sandbags, and I already know that these 2 sandbags produce about the right amount of tension for this. Come back a little bit more. And so I want to see 16 thousandths here. I'll have to scoot him back a little bit there. So let's get 12, 14, 16. 12, 14, 16. Put this on here. 6th fret again. $12 isn't going to cut it. It needs a little bit more. It's a little bit more weight. I got another sandbag here someplace. There it is. Normally I'd be able to put them up here, but because this ruler wants to stick out here, you know, go up over the bottom, I can't get the sandbags there right now. I could put them on the side. I'm trying not to get a whole lot of weight out here, so I could put these sandbags on the side, like this. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah, that's good. Just as long as I figure out a system here. So 12 is cleared really nice, so yeah. And it'll hold itself up too. 14. Yeah, there we go. I want that. Yeah, when I get these two sandbags up here, I should be getting 16 now. $16's good. I can just feel it. Still going in under here though. I might be a little bit too much weight. Let's try 18. 18's going. So I have just a little bit too much weight. Let's scoot this back a little. Scoot this one back. Change the leverage on it. Short guitar scale. There we go. Make sure it's sitting down in there. Here's 18, and 18's hitting. That's good. Go back to 16. Short guitar scale. Nope. Let's bring it back up again. There we go. 16 is tight. Just a little tight. But it will go. And I'll bet 14 will go. The neck might be starting to relax too. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. So these two sandbags, yeah, and I can see the relief in there, so that's good. These two sandbags up here result in about the same amount of tension on the body as the string tension would be. It's okay if it's a little bit less. We got it close, you know. 12 to 16, I'm not really going to worry about a whole lot at this point. So what I found out was these two sandbags, this propping up, produces artificial neck relief here. All right, now drop them back down there. Now I know that. I got it on video. So now what's going to happen, I'm going to pull the frets. And that's just a standard procedure. I'm not going to show you everything on that. But I basically use a soldering iron. I heat them, pull the frets. And then when I get the frets pulled, I'll come back on the video. And we will check another look at the board without the frets and see what the relief is doing at that point. I can actually put those two sandbags out there and I can check it again. And, you know, the more I know about how this fingerboard works and how it responds to pressure and weight and that sort of thing, the better of a job I'm going to get here. And I also want to see if there's a little bit of a hump here at the first fret. So when I get this cleaned off, and the surface ready for new frets, I'm going to see if there's a little bit of a rise right here at the first fret. And a lot of times there is. And if there is, I will shave, sand, shape that down just a little bit. This is a vintage guitar. I'm not going to wreck anything. I don't want to take too much off. I don't want to, devalue the guitar. But if I can take off 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch and make it better, I will. A lot of times there's a rise right here at the first fret. And you can just do a little bit of minimal shaping here, and we'll be good to go. But we'll see what we got there. I would rather not do that on this guitar if I don't have to. So we'll see what we got. So I'm going to take these frets off, and then we will come back. Here's just an example of how to pull frets. I got a soldering iron here. This is a 40 watt. Yeah, 40 watt. No big deal. I do have a little bit of groove filed on that one side. Just keep it from falling off and stuff. And basically you set it on the fret. This one does not have a bound fingerboard or anything, so nothing to worry about there. Heat it up, and you generally see some steam or some sort of evidence it's getting hot right here. You can see stuff bubbling out of there. And then scoot it back, reach down with these pliers, and squeeze them. I do not like to pull, twist, anything like that. I use the natural angle of the jaws to pull it. And you just walk it across like this. Get that fret good and hot. It breaks down any glue or anything sticking like that. I think it also forces the wood away from the metal, because they have different rates of expansion, And there you go. This one's coming apart real good. You want to watch for chips and that kind of thing. Generally not too bad on a guitar. Mandolins are horrible. Mandolins are the worst when it comes to chips for some reason or another. You just work your way across. That. Let's take a look while I have this in my hand, and let's measure this fret correctly. Use your notch right there, and 30 thousandths of an inch. So, they're low, and it's not just that they're low, it's at their flat top too. New ones are going to be 37 thousandths, so 25%. 25% more almost. If I didn't have to use compression refret, I would use Jeshkar 4380, and it is 43 thousandths of an inch tall, and that's my favorite fret wire. That is absolutely probably the best height. I wish 37 was more like about 40, but it's all right. It is vintage wire. Now you can see some stuff squeezing up there, green junk. Sterilizes the fret too. That's a joke. Okay, turn this off and I'm gonna work. All right, here we are. Frets are out. That's all I've done. It's interesting to see. There's 2 holes here. So this guitar has had a neck reset previously. And if I have to end up doing a neck reset on it, I'm going to be curious to see how good they did this one. Did they use the right glue? Did they have good shims in there? But, I don't mind seeing the holes like this. Some people are like, oh, they should have covered it. No, I like to see them, because then I know, okay, there's been a previous neck reset without any question. So, and they're under the fret. They were, they're hidden. You'd have to really look for them to find them. So we got this fingerboard. I haven't done a thing to it. Got these little ridges full of junk that were under the frets. These need to be leveled off. I'm definitely not going to do any grinding on this, no sanding. But I am going to take a sanding block like this and just really lightly rub it down here to knock these ridges off. I don't even want to see any ebony dust. I just want a real light touch right here. Look up this. That's better. Now it's starting to go. Okay, that's it. No shaving, no taking off of anything of the fingerboard. And I got these pads here, and I'm going to come back in. I'm going to clean that up, smooth that up. In my humble experience, having done, gosh, 1,000 neck refrets, easy. The better prep you have on the fingerboard, the better result you're going to have with your frets. So get your fingerboard nice and clean, level, straight, all the slots clean, super clean here. We've got one little chip right there, we need to fix that, and we will. Not an issue, the rest of it looks pretty good. There's a few, you see the little chips here, but the fret tang, or the fret's going to cover that. All right, that's good on that. Now, let's find out what that fingerboard's doing. Now I can lay this on here and use it as a straight edge. So we're going to set it right there. I'm going to hold it down over here at the body, and I'm going to see what we got over here. And I'll tell you what, with the frets out of there, this thing is almost dead level. It's not proud. There's a little bit of fave right here over the body, which there should be. Yeah, falling away there. And that fingerboard is just about dead level. So that's good to know. It's good to know. At this stage, we're still just doing a basic fret job. We're going to clean the slots out here. And so since I have a level fingerboard, we don't have a rise right here. That's really good. So I'm not going to do any sanding on the fingerboard, which, like I said, I want to avoid that. That would be my least desirable option. Let's take a real straight edge and lay it on here. Come back here and hold it. And yeah, that looks real good. Well, we don't have a rise right here, so that's good. We're going to be using frets to knock that back. All right, so at this point, I'm going to use the saw, and I'm going to use this thing, and I'm basically just going to clean these slots out and get these really clean before I go to the next step. Now, these slots look really good. They're not, this guitar has not been refretted a bunch of times, so the slots are not worn. They all look really nice and tight. That's going to mean that our fret job is going to be a success. We hope. Well, that didn't take long. What you do at this point, get your feeler gauges, find out how big these fret slots are. So they're going to be around 20 thousandths. So I'm going to get an 18. I'm going to get an 18, 20, and 22. We're going to find out how big these are. And just lay them in here. And 18 goes in there. And it's got a little bit of wobble. So it's bigger than that. 20. 20 is tight. Those are probably 20 thousandths. It's definitely tight up in here. 20. 22 is probably not going to fit. If it does, it's going to be pretty tight. Yeah, 22 doesn't go. So these slots are 20 thousandths of an inch. That's good to know. They're nice and tight. Now let's go look at our fret wire over here. And this is compression fret wire. They're almost impossible to measure this thickness here, so make sure you tape them and identify them here. So here's a 225. So a 225 on that 220 would be a mild, very mild compression to be a pretty tight fit, but it wouldn't be too bad. Now here's a 230. So this one would be a little bit snugger. That'd be a pretty snug fit. These are 225. So again, that's a little bit of a snug fit. And here's a 205. This one would be basically your normal fret wire with just a little bit of tension. What have we got over here? This is a tall tang. That means the tang is, I need to get rid of this wire. I almost never use it. The tang is really tall right here. You can see compared to this one how deep that tang is. And I don't know what you use that for, but I ordered it by mistake. So my fret wire here is a 230, 225, 245, 205, and 225. And here's one that I don't know what it is because I've lost my tape. So I don't know what that is. That might be a 245, which I rarely use, and that's why I have so much of it. So we're going to start with this 225, the 230, 245. That's probably not going to use the 245 at all. You would use this if your fret slots were big. We've got the 225. We've got 225 here. We're good. And this is 3780. I wish it was 4380, but we're all right. Probably we're going to be using most of this 225 and this 205 right here to get started. And didn't I have another 205? I had a 230, 225, 225. Yeah, these are going to be our two main wires right here. All right, let's go back over here and check a couple more things on this. So I'm going to make sure these are clean again. Get the vacuum on it maybe. Pretty nice. It's just whipping through there without any catching, snagging, or anything. So that's great. We'll worry about these in a minute. Up here is where I'm going to use the 205s because there's no compression happening from here up to here. And so you want to get those in there just as easy as you can, especially over the body here. I don't want to be pounding, hitting, or anything like that. So, okay, here's one other trick you can use. Well, I thought I had a can of compressed air, but I must have used it. But you can use compressed air and blow those out. Otherwise, I'm going to use the vacuum, and I'm going to turn this off so you don't have to listen to it. Let's find out what the radius of the fingerboard is. I use these gauges. That's not going to be the one because that's for like electric guitars, mandolin. It's going to be this one. I don't like to look at the numbers. I like to set it up here on the white side, so I'm not biased too much, and this is too much. Gonna take more curve than that. Oh, that one looks real good. Possibly that one. Possibly that one. That one's too much curve. So it's a 15 or a 14, and we're gonna go with the 14. I wonder if there's a little bit of air under there. Let's see what 16 looks like. $16 looks all right. 16 is touching the edges. That one doesn't have enough curve. That's a 20. That's good to know. I think I see a little bit of air under that one. So here's the 14. Yeah, 14's, yeah, there it is. I can see some air, just a little bit of air under the 14. So it's a 16. Martins are usually either 16 or 14. And I don't know when they're when. I always measure them. If somebody else has been on this fingerboard and sanded it, they could flatten a 14 down and things like that. So you just always measure them. So we're going to be using the 16, and I use jaws. Let's see if we got a 16 in there from the last fret job. That's a 14. Here's my 16. And I'll tell you what, this right here is one of the keys to a really good fret job. You get a smooth radius every time. It's just, my frets went up exponentially when I got that. I have 2 of them. All right, here we go. We're ready to go. I'll grab my fret wires here. Now, let's talk about this a minute. So this is a 205. So we know that that's going to fit pretty good because I measured 20 thousandths, and so that's going to be good. This one is the 225. That's going to be my main compression wire. Might go to a 230. You're not going to get much at all right here, and definitely not right in here. So you can go ahead and put one 205 up in here, and you can go ahead and put frets in from about right here on up to about this fret. I'm going to leave this one alone because I might need to reset it. I'm going to leave these alone till that. But I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 in here. And then we start to work with the actual compression job. And what we would do then is we'll measure our relief, and we'll put a 225 in here, put 2 of them in on these 2 frets, and we're going to see how that neck reacts to that. And then you can alternate 225 and 205, and it's a little bit of a judgment call. You've got to figure out what that neck's doing and how much tension it is. You don't want to make it backbowed, you know. So you have to kind of just check your progress as you're going. You have to make a little bit of experience, a little bit of a guesswork on this. I'm going to fret these up, and might as well go ahead and watch. You can exit if you don't want to watch. I've got to curve this wire first. Let's see if I didn't have some curved first. No, I don't. Let's see what this one is. Like I said, it's almost impossible to measure the width of this tang, but you can get a feel by how stiff it is. And sometimes you can get a measurement on it, but it won't be a very accurate measure. You can always test fit it in the slot. This is saying about 225. I think possibly 230, but it's definitely not 205. And you can get a piece, whip a piece out like this, and you can kind of push it down with your finger. And it's not even getting close to going in there. So this is pretty tight. This might be a 235. I know I have, at one time, 205, 215, 225. I had them all the way up in 10s, and this might be a 235. Okay, here's a piece of 205, and I'm gonna cut it off here so we get a workable piece here. And then what you do is you set it down on the slot, and you kind of push it with your finger and see how well it's going to fit. Let's get up here and take a close-up. So you can see it sitting down there, and as I push it with my finger, it's not going super readily into there, so it's going to be a little bit snug. Going to be a little snug right there, which is good. Okay, I'm going to get a piece of the 225 over here too. We're going to compare that. Okay, so here's a piece of 225, and let's cut us off a piece. About a fret's width. You can tell when you cut it, it's thicker. Took a little bit more force. So here's a 225. We're going to put that up here in the middle of the neck. Let's see if you can tell any difference here. See, that sits on there, and that's going to have to be pushed in. You can see over here it's not going in quite as much as this one is. It's a pretty small difference. It's not, you know, you're not really forcing it in there. It's in here's the key. It's an accumulative effect. So by the time I put 2 or 3 of these in the middle of the neck, it's going to make the middle of that neck bend back quite a bit. It's cumulative effect. It's not just one. You know, it's not one fret's going to be the magic bullet or anything like that. All right. I'm going to use this stuff. This is very weak glue. What it really does is just kind of fills the fret slot, and it's actually a good lubricant for this. And when it dries, it'll fill up all the air spaces, and this, when it's dried, will help a lot with the compression effect. So you put it in there, just fill the slot with it. Get my wet paper towel ready to go. I will need this. Okay, here's my fret, my hammer. You just tap it in to get it going. Jaws. And I've done this so many times that I can tell by how much pressure that took that that was a normal fit right there. That was not tight, not loose. That went in really good, just the way it's supposed to be. That was a normal fret. Let's try this one, just for fun. Yeah, that didn't tap in as much. Watch the difference here on the press. This is going to be a little bit stiffer. See, that went, it didn't just slide in there. It took some effort. It's just a little bit harder. Make sure it's seated. You'll find when you do these compressions that something, you know, you got to make sure that they're seated. Take a look at it. Make sure you did get it. Doesn't hurt to check it again. Looks good. Okay, I'm going to do these frets using the hammer, and then we'll be back. Okay, I got a fret in here. I've got an oversized fret up here. I've got 4 frets up in here, so I can lay my straight edge across there and get an accurate reading. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my fret wire here, which is all nicely taped together. I've been cutting pieces off here so I could avoid pulling a strip out of here, but I'm going to need a whole strip, I think. So I might as well just pull it out. There we go. All right. Now you got to make sure you don't get this mixed with the other one. That's a headache. So we're going to put 3 in here. I know I'm going to put 3 in right in the middle of the neck. I know I'm going to do that. So let's just go ahead and get those. I'm going to take this 225 and I'm going to set it right there. And that's my 225. We're going to do 2 more frets, and we're going to take a look at what the relief is doing then after that. So glue it up. This guitar has cracks underneath the fingerboard where the popsicle brace didn't do its job. And I'm wondering what the ethical approach to this is. In other words, if this was a lesser guitar like a 70s, I would just rip the popsicle brace out and I would put a trapezoid brace in there. And I talked about that on the evaluation video, but after thinking about it, I don't think I'm going to do that. There's a couple of other approaches. So I sent Jim Baggett an email at Mass Street Music. He is probably, him and John Arnold are the two guys I talk to when it comes to pre-war Martins like this. I would talk to Jim because of the value of the thing, you know, because he was on Antique Roadshows and, you know, he sells stuff. So he's much more into the, how am I going to ruin the value? And John is more like my guy to, you know, what's the best structural? Not to say that they're posing here, but, you know, just a slightly different angle there. And I can see what they both say. You know, if they both give me the same advice, then that's cool. But I did shoot him an email and see what he said. What would his approach be? Because, you know, Baggett works on a ton of these pre-war Martins, and extremely patient. You know, it might take him a year to do this fret job. I'm exaggerating on that, but I know I talked about neck resets before, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, it's definitely going to take me." He's going to get it right. I think I'm a perfectionist, but I am not in the same ballpark. So I'm going to see what he has to say about that. If he answers me, he might be tired of me, you know. It's that punk Kimsey guy out there in New Mexico. That hot rod dude. I don't think so. When you're dealing with a pre-war Martin like this, though, it's a different ball game than it is, for sure, 70s. I work mostly on 70s, you know. I don't really like working on pre-wars all that much because there's so much esoterica with these things. You know, there's so much stuff to know. But this is a repeat customer, guy that trusts me. This guitar is not pristine, you know. It's got cracks in it. It's got a replaced bridge. It's got a replaced pickguard. The headstock is cracked, so this guitar is not pristine. So I'm safe working on it. If it was pristine, I wouldn't do it. I would pass on it. Let somebody else have the headache. Let T.J. Thompson do it. Let Dennis Burke do it. Steve Kovacic, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Let Jim Baggett do it. You know, let John Arnold do it. Let those guys do it. But this one, you know, I'm cool with it. All right, let's see what we got. Now I'm going to use a straight edge here. I'm going to lay it down up here. And what I can do is I can measure clearance here. And it ought to fall away right here. So I can measure this clearance, and there ought to be more clearance up here. Okay, you follow me? Because the neck should be bowing backwards pretty quick here. We're also going to put sandbags on it and see how we're doing. But I'm going to seesaw back and forth on these two techniques. There's a 37 thousandths, so there is a 38. Let's see how 38 fits into this. So I'm going to come up here because there's no flex going on. And you can see that's a pretty snug fit right there. Those frets push down a little bit, so I might drop that down. I'm going to make sure I've got it and I'm not pushing up on it. I'm going to drop down to a 16. So I've got a 20 and a 16, so that's 36. That's good. So that one's going under really nice, okay? And what do we got up here? Clearance. Clearance. Now, when you come up here, I want to start seeing some extra clearance. You follow what I'm doing here? I'm running a plane across the top of these frets, across the top of these frets, and that same plane, because this is a good straight edge, should stick out here, but the fingerboard should start falling away from that plane. In fact, this should be the highest part of the fingerboard pretty quick here. So let's throw this 16 out of there. And I need to have about 0.10 of an inch or so up here. So yeah, we're definitely going to be, let's just throw this 20 and 22 in there. Make sure you hold it here. That's almost clearing. Not quite, not quite. Not quite. Let's keep going. Let's throw the sandbags on here too. This is going to be really weak for right now. In other words, I haven't got nearly enough frets on here. It's going to bend here, here, and here. 6 frets. I got 6 frets out. But let's see what it's doing. So we got to put these here. Shift that weight up front. As long as I have a little tunnel here for my notch straight edge, I'm in good shape. Long guitar scale. Drop that down there. Wiggle that. And yeah, I've got relief. I want to see about 0.06 of an inch by the time I get done here. So let's see what I've got now. I shot 12. Let's try 12 over here. 12's going. Should give myself more than 12. Still less than 12. You need to know, I like to know how much is the neck moving as I'm adding frets in. So here's 14. Oh, 14's pretty snug. That's good. 16's tight. So we started at 16, so with 3 compression frets, we're already at the same relief that we were with all the other frets. So the neck is reacting pretty good to these frets. So that's good to know. Now, you could walk it with 2 tight ones here, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna go one more here and see what this does. Sometimes you end up taking them out if you don't think you got enough. Like I might take out this middle one and put in a slightly bigger one. We'll see. We're gonna put 2 more in here and see how we're doing. So what I'm doing, you see, is I'm starting here in the middle and I'm walking my way out here. Thinking here. Let me see if I can go ahead and get a 30 in there. I'll put these 2 over here. I can put these 2 here, and I can put tighter ones here. Let me check it. Oh, this is supposed to be a 230, which I don't believe. It's probably a 235. Let's see. Okay, that one's definitely pretty snug. Let's try and get that one in here and one more in here. And if they're too tight, don't force them. You know, they need to go in kind of like a normal fret. So I'm going to cut 1. I'm going to set it there. Your neck is going to be more flexible here than it is here because it's thicker and stiffer right up in here, thinner up here. So you can still work with this a little bit more than you can with this. So that's why I'm going to go with the fatter fret here, maybe here. Let's see what it does. That's definitely a little bit stiffer. That fell out, didn't it? Didn't even go in the slot, so I need to put it on both sides. Oh, that's definitely a stiff fit. Put it on the sandbag. Now we're in. It went in though. Definitely a snugger feel than these. It's not quite seated right here. I can see that, so I'm going to come back in and squeeze it again. Yeah, I don't know. I like that. The fill gauge is sliding under here. Right there. Yeah, that's tight. So, I'll get my caul. We're going to go to tapping, and then these are the next two. Keep them there. We'll go ahead and tap it. This is a dead blow hammer. That went in there. Sometimes, you know, they're so tight that the press doesn't really do it. That's definitely a snug fit. Okay. One more here. Make sure this is clean. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and tap it because I know it's going to be tight. That's tight. I wouldn't want to go any tighter than that. Again, you know, you don't want to force them in there. It's just counterproductive. But that one's about as snug as I'm going to get. So let's double check it. It's still not seated good. It's a little high up on the sides here. It's okay. I bet this is going to hit. Not bad. That's good. You brought a straight edge down here. It's not catching, so the frets down there, it's seated. Oh, let's see what we get. Up here. There we go. Sandbag. Sandbag. This is called sandbagging. Oh, it's not too bad. Got a patience on this job. Let's try 12. At the 6th fret. Pretty tight. So we got the relief down. Let's try 8. And 8 is snug. 8's not going here. So we are definitely taking that relief down. So we ended up with what, 12? We're getting there. I'm not going to go forcing another one in here. I'm going to go ahead and use the 225 up here, which is still a snug fret. You know, 205 would be normal. 225. Is snug. I'm going to put one up here too. I got the glue in my hand. Okay, so this one. And this one. Let's put it back on this one. Yeah. Let's leave this slot open for right now, just in case I need that one. Let's hold on that one. Let's leave this slot open as our last possible big fret, or big tang in there. So press this one in. It's snug. Let's put this one here. Guess I could open that. Okay. All right. Do a couple of checks now. Now I'm closing in. I got 2 slots left for fat frets. And then that's it. So let's see how we're doing here. I'm going to run this back on here. And, oh, that's nice. Yeah. All right, cool. Right now, I've got a back bow here. I'm clearing up here. And... oh. we definitely have got some clearance up here at this first fret, so we can put some weight on here. So let's try 12 thousandths. Here's an 8 and here's a 12. And let's take the 8. A little tight. We're definitely not overdoing it. 12 is not going to go. So we got 8 thousandths of an inch, which is about what we started off with. So let's put the weight. The weight's what really matters, because the weight is mimicking a string tension. And that's really what we need to know. Let's put that on there, and where's the other real straight edge? This one. Let's run this over the top of the frets and see what we're getting. Get down here. Pretty flat. So the tops of the frets are pretty flat. Under string tension, we've got a nice flat neck. Let's see if we can even get anything under here. 6 thousandths of an inch. Be happy with me if this didn't go. Yeah. Not going. That's good. We're getting a nice flat neck, and I know with this ebony truss rod, when it's under tension, it's going to develop a little bit of relief. But we're definitely not going to put any fat frets in here. We're just going to go at the 225s and drop them in there. Let's see what this looks like. Under tension. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, it's almost dead flat. So that's cool, because now these both tell me the same story. Almost dead flat. That's down from 16 thousandths of an inch. We got two slots left to go. So most of our stiffness is happening up in here. Not much flex is going to happen in here anymore. And I don't want to overbend it. So I'm going to put these 225s back up and see if I can find my 205. I wonder if this is it. Yeah, this is it. Because I used up the stick that I took. Let me check it. Yeah, this is the 205. So we're going to put the 205 on the remaining two slots here. Yeah, you could tell when I cut it. It was chuk chuk. It was easy. Yeah, that's normal. That's normal fret rise. So this is a 205. And it's back over in the 205 stick now. Okay, I'm pretty happy. You know, it's looking good. The true test, of course, is when you string it up. You know, what happens then. But using your sandbags, you can mimic that at least, you know, partially. You don't need the fancy jig that has all the little points in here and all that. You just need to prop it up with the sandbag and put some weight up here. And it's pretty simple. Your strings don't have multiple points of contact, you know. Your strings run from here to here, one thing. So you pop the headstock up, put some weight down here, 2 points, the neck bows the way the neck wants to bow, and you can do pretty good. You can do a whole lot better than nothing, and I think you can do just about as good as, you know, having the fancy neck jig, which I had one once. And I sent it back. Yeah, that goes in really easy, but it's still snug. Still snug. Not loose. Clamp. Yeah. Yeah, there's your 205s. All right, we're done with jaws. Now I'm going to let this glue dry, probably overnight, before I string it up or anything, because like I said earlier, the dried glue itself will act as a little bit of a compression factor. And I don't want to string it up and squeeze the glue out. I want to give it a chance to dry, fill up all the air spaces in there, and act as its own compression factor. So I'm going to let all this dry overnight. I'll come back later, tomorrow, and trim it up, string it up, and see what we got. And I got to make a new nut, so I'll probably go ahead and knock that one off and start working on the new nut. I can do that while the glue dries. That is the basic of a compression neck reset. Okay, you see the concept. Now, if I string this up and in 2 or 3 days there's no neck relief and I actually backbowed it, then what I will do is come in and take out a couple of frets out of the middle of the neck, and I will refret it, put thinner fret tangs in there, and I would do that if I have to. Just because you put a fret in doesn't mean it has to stay in. You know, your goal is to get the relief that you want, which is pretty flat, 0.04, 0.06 of an inch of relief. And if you don't get that goal, you failed. So you may have to come in here and take a couple of these frets out, which is another reason I don't like to use really, really tight tangs, because you're going to rip this up when you take it out if they're too tight. These were okay. Now, one trick that I can use if I have to take out a tight tang is to set the neck like this, put a little weight on the headstock, put a little weight on the body, and bend that neck back, and that will open the slots up just a little bit more, and you can pull those frets out there easier. The worst thing you want to do is what I have right here, where I have it up here and I have weight down here. Now you're making tension on the slot, and you're going to make it really hard to pull those out, and you're going to cause damage. So if I have to take, again, if I have to take a compression fret out, and I know for a fact that it might be one of the tight ones, then I will put the weight here, put some weight up in here, and even use a clamp, clamp it right here at the first fret, and put just a little pressure back here, back by that neck, just a little bit. The neck can take it, and you will be able to pull that fret out a lot easier, especially after you heat it and everything. So, but you may have to come back and pull out a couple of frets and redo a couple of them, okay? You've got to get it right. You've got to get it where you want it, and you've got to accomplish your goal, which is to get a nice flat neck out of this thing. You definitely don't want 16 thousandths of an inch of relief. You want 6, I like the way this is looking. I think we're going to be in good shape. I know we're getting less than 16. And it played pretty good before when it had super low frets, and now it's got nice tall, new frets. And I know it's going to be better. So I know we've made an improvement. So we started with about 30 thousandths. And now we're looking at 40, you see? Yeah, 40. So we've gained 10 thousandths of an inch of fret bite. And that's going to make all the difference in the world when it gets to playing this thing. So, all right, I'm going to let it sit. And not only am I going to let it sit, but I'm going to let it sit like this, where the neck can naturally kind of sag back a little bit. I would not hesitate to put a sandbag on this neck and a sandbag over here, just to give that glue room to solidify. But this is good. I don't want to overdo it, because this is pretty good. This is fine right here. So we're going to let the weight of the headstock kind of naturally bow that neck back and leave this overnight. I will finish this up tomorrow when we get you need to see the success story. That's, like I said, that's what matters. All of this talk and do this and do that, we want to see the success story. So we'll be back tomorrow and finish this up. All right, hey, we're back. It is 12:30 a.m. And I was really tired. I took a nap. Then I woke up and I decided to come on out here and work on this because it's been plenty of hours for this to dry. And so we are out here in the wee hours of the morning working on this guitar. And here's where we're at. I trimmed the fret ends, beveled them and things like that. That's a standard fret job thing. And now what I'm doing is I'm checking this neck before I level and crown everything. When you're dealing with compression frets, it's common to have one or two, stay high, especially when you're dealing with that wider tang and you're trying to really get a really super tight fit in there. They don't always seat as level as they do when they're all the same fret and you put them in a slot that doesn't have to be super tight. So always checking them, everything before. I hate grinding frets down. I really hate that. So what I've done is I put a little bit of weight on this thing, put it on the sandbags, and I take my straight edge, and I'm just kind of checking for rough, really bad spots. And then I'm going to level it, and then I'm going to smooth out anything that's just a little high. Normally, when I do a normal refret, I like to put the marker on here, and man, I had better take that off in just 2 or 3 swipes of the file with no pressure at all. Just glide over there, and I want to see it take all my marker off. But when you're dealing with compression refrets, it's not always that pretty, and you got to deal with reality. So I take a straight edge, Sumac straight edge, and just kind of rock it over here. So there's a high fret right there. And it's just a section here. So this is nice. But right there, it's rocking. And it's this fret right here. So I'm going to come over here with my hammer, prop that up on the sandbag. First thing I'm going to do is try to tap it. And boom, I took a little metal stuck out. So now I got it. So that's better. It's still a little bit high right there. I don't hesitate to take a call. Put it in this thing. If I can get this one out. They don't like being hammered sometimes. And we're 16-inch radius. I'm going to take a 16-inch radius. If I'm dealing with the ends, sometimes I take a more curved radius. So here's a 14. So I'm really dealing with the ends here, not the middle so much. You can also take a straight edge and rock it this way, and it'll twist on that high fret. So right there, it wants to stick. So these are all the same. But here, it's wanting to pivot right there on that fret. 12th fret. So put that on there. A little bit more radius and hit this. Give it a good sharp blow. You're supported here and everything. So sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. Still got a little bit of height right there. Gonna take that out. These are good. I don't have any real weight on the neck right now, so this neck's actually got a little bit of a back bow to it. And we're just looking for really bad stuff right here. That one's got a little rock. Oh yeah, that one's pretty bad right there. So let's see what we can do on that 3rd fret. Bring sandbag up under here. Gonna take that radius again. Put it on there. Did it do anything? If it doesn't do anything, then you're gonna have to file it, and then recrown it and everything. Okay, so I've taken a rough look at that. Now I want to see how my neck relief is doing. So I'm going to prop it up here, just like we've been doing. Put the padding up under the nut. And you can get a thinner sandbag too, you can put 2 sandbags up there to help, but we got it here. As long as this is clear and the neck relief is able to work, you'll be all right. Put my sandbags up here. And my notch straight edge. Long guitar scale, stick that on there. We're good. It stands up by itself. Pretty good. I got a little bit of neck relief. And of course, that's on the neck itself. That's not on the frets yet, We're going to level the frets. Let's see what we got. Should have brought a bottle of water with me. 8 thousandths, 6 thousandths at the 6th fret here. Hold it down here again. And 8 is pretty firm. I can feel that. 6 is good. 6 is pretty tight right there. So we started at 16 thousandths of an inch, and we got 8 thousandths of an inch right now. So we cut the relief in half without doing any shaving of the fingerboard or anything like that. So that's pretty good. Now we're going to do the frets, and we're going to be able to take a little bit more out with the top of the frets. Let's see what it looks like with this straight edge on here. And that's pretty sticky. See, it doesn't want to rotate. So there's not a high spot in the middle or anything. That's pretty good. What do we got for relief here? Pretty flat. Pretty flat. And again, this guitar's been resting now for many hours. And I fully expect after being strung for 2 weeks, it's going to develop a little bit more relief than we have right now. But let's see what we have here. Rest that on there, 6th fret. 6 thousandths of an inch doesn't even get close to coming in there. So that's nice. Let's try 3 thousandths of an inch. I think it's a 3. There it is. It's over on this side. 3 thousandths. See if 3 thousandths goes. No. Nope. We have almost a perfectly flat fret surface at this point. Which is good. That's what I wanted. Take purple marker, yellow, red, whatever. Purple's easy to see. Purple and red are my favorites. Blue is pretty good too. You kind of got to get what the store has sometimes. This marker's got a groove in it from doing this. So you should not hesitate to tape this off or use a guard if you're not steady with your marker. All right, now we're going to level the frets a little bit. Set that up there. That's good. I'm going to take my fine file and I'm going to just barely move it here. No pressure is what I mean. I'm just pushing the file, no pressure. I can see right away that 3rd fret is a little bit high. Not too terrible because I can see I'm hitting the 2nd fret just a little bit. We got no choice really but to grind this one down a little bit, which I really hate to do, like I said, but in this case, we don't really have any choice, so it'll be okay. These are looking really good. This 12th fret's a little bit high, but I am starting to touch all the rest of them. So, and look at the dust. I mean, I don't even have any dust on this, you see. I got barely, hardly any fret dust on there. So you can see how light of a touch I've got on this. This is a little bit of a high fret right there. If you ever have any questions here, you can check it with your calipers. So let's see how high this fret is here. 40, 40, and 43, 45. So this one's high. Nothing I can do about it, but when I get done, the overall height is going to be okay. It's just going to take a little bit more crowning and a little bit more care to get it right. So, all right, that's the operation now. Now I'm going to keep doing this until I'm very happy with the level, and then I'll come back to you. Right, I got everybody about where I want them. The 3rd fret. Right here on the high E, I had to do quite a bit of filing, a little bit of filing, and I eventually just went to this, like that, and just got this one little trouble spot right here. Now, what happens is this fret top is now flat here, right there, and so we've got to recrown that and make it look pretty. And this is maybe where a lot of people drop the ball. They don't concentrate on that crowning enough. Taking my straight edge here, and there we go. Tiny click right there, tiny click, but we're not done. And again, you can try twisting it and it sticks, so you know you're good. Tiny click right there, but not there, so that's good. It's a little bit of spot right there. And then take this and just brush it a little bit. Let's see if that didn't do it. Yeah. Okay. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take one more little pass over here. If you have a good file, you can feel your file rocking. Or not rocking. Hopefully not rocking. Okay, so now we've got the frets all level. All down to the same. Clean this off. I want to work on this fret right here and get it crowned. I use a small 3-corner file to do this at first. Just push it up here and roll it like this. It might help to put some purple on there so you can see what you're doing. That might help it show up on the camera a little bit better. Let's see. Yeah. So it's pretty flat topped right now. I want the sides to come in a little bit better at first. So use your 3-corner, roll it in. It's looking more like a normal fret right now. Get this edge right there. And I might even get my small needle. I got a small one like this. And run it down the side to get this. Yeah, that's good. Okay. When I'm happy with that, I use my diamond crown file. And that's my technique, is to roll up, roll down, and then across the top. And I still think this edge could come in a little bit more. Okay. That's pretty good. Let's see what these look like. go ahead and take a sandbag off now. We don't need that weight. Put it back here on the edge of the body. Keep the guitar steady. All right. Now from here, it's just a regular fret job. And then I'm going to do that, polish everything up. And then we'll come back here and we will string it up and see what we have as far as neck relief. But I do know that we're laying that straight edge across here. I leveled the frets under tension. So that took out the last little bit of relief. So the fingerboard had about, what, 6,000ths, 8,000ths of an inch maybe of relief. Then I leveled the frets under tension, so that brought the relief down even more. I would not be surprised if this is perfectly flat when we first string it up, and then it'll develop a little bit more relief. You don't want, I don't like relief. Just real quick, if you've never seen this, this is my technique for rounding the edges, is take this super wonderful little flat file that they don't make anymore. And I come in here, I've already leveled, I've already beveled. So I come in, making sure I got a camera, lay this file almost flat, just a little curve, and then real gently, just round the edges like that. You're not going to dig into the fingerboard or anything like that. Just curve that sharp edge off of there. Take this triangular in again. And then I come back in here and just round it like this. So I end up with round fret ends, which Martin doesn't do. They just zip it over here. But I like a pretty straight down bevel right here, so I can use my whole fingerboard instead of beveling the frets in like this and losing half the fingerboard. I like mine up pretty straight, but then I round the fret end off, which takes a lot more time to do. And, you know, these are still got a little bit of stuff on them, but this one's nice and smooth. And then I'll smooth it off and things like that. So I'm going to do that. And well, I think I am done. It's a good thing, too, because it's about 1:30 in the morning. So it's taking me about an hour to do this. But I also made a new nut for the thing. And there's the new nut. Looks pretty good to me. It had it had that horrible nut on it, and when I took the original, I think it's original. It looks original. It had been shimmed underneath. It had a couple of slots filed in with bone and recut. The top of the slots were really ugly and nasty, and I'm sure there's a lot of buzzing coming from there. So, being that the nut had already been off at one time because it had a shim underneath it, I didn't feel too bad about taking it off and making a new nut. And the other one's in the case right there. This one's really good. I pushed the spacing out just a little bit further, and man, it is so comfortable up here now. There's so much more room for my fingers up here. It's nice. All right, we're not concerned about that though. What we're concerned about is just a fret job. And here's what we got as far as relief at this point. For one thing, I'm just going to put my finger down here and do this and tap it. And we are looking at probably around 6,000ths of an inch of relief. We can find out. We'll find out. Take a straight edge, lay it across here, like that. And we'll start putting feeler gauges into it. And again, I think it's probably going to come up just a little bit because it's been in tune. Gets in tune. So where's my 6th fret here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right here. 8,000ths does not go. 6 is not quite going to go. It's just flows I get on that one. Here's a 3. And it's bent, so I got to get in here. 3,000ths of an inch. It's tight. I can see some air. Make sure I have any glue. I got glue on this. Got to get this, you know. That's probably adding a couple thousandths. I can see air. There it is. So 3/1000ths of an inch. So we went from 16/1000ths of an inch down to 3/1000ths of an inch. 3/1000ths is a pretty darn flat neck. But it's gonna, you know, it's gonna come up a little bit. Now the good thing about this, the second thing that I thought was gonna happen, I was worried it was gonna need a neck reset because it had about 110/1000ths of an inch action here. And I said, you know, it's gonna come down when I bring that relief down. And sure enough, from 110, here's a 90/1000ths of an inch. And make sure I got it on the camera. Yeah. We got perfect 90 on the A. And it looks like about 96, maybe 98, possibly. On the low E, here's 98. 98/1000ths of an inch, which is not bad. I can certainly play that. That's a lot better. We dropped the action 12/1000ths of an inch. So no neck reset needed, and it has plenty of saddle. You know, I have enough saddle here to even lower it a little bit more. But I am going to cut a long vintage saddle on this guitar, just for your information. This is a replacement bridge, and for some reason they put a short saddle in there. Not a terrible looking bridge. It's not a pre-war looking bridge, but it's not bad. You know, it's acceptable. At least it's not oversized. So I'm going to just fill that slot in and cut a long vintage saddle. We're going to call it good. I don't want to take that bridge off and damage the top underneath or anything like that. It's just not that critical. If you were making a bridge, you'd make it a little bit more vintage than this, but this is, it's acceptable, you know? It's acceptable. So, obviously I got to put the frets in up here. And what I'm going to do on those frets, in fact, is I'm going to take regular fret wire and I'm going to run it through the fret barber, which is a Stumac thing. It's got feeler gauges that hold the files apart. And I'm going to take the tangs off so that they just really absolutely slip into there without any hammering or anything like that. And then I will glue them in. And that's going to be what holds them in. So I don't want to be hammering on this extension. This has got cracks alongside the fingerboard here, which need to be repaired. And I'm researching what the good people think needs to be done. I said that at the beginning of the video. I contacted Baggett. I'm still waiting for a reply. But I don't want to hammer those frets. I don't want to do anything like that. I want those frets to just about drop into there and be held in by the glue. So I don't know. Let's give this thing a strum. I'm not sure if I got it tuned or not. It's settling in because I did have it tuned. Last thing I do on every fret job is to do the next fret technique, where I hold it down here and I chuck this, chuck this, chuck this, chuck this, and I walk my way down the entire fingerboard, every single note, making sure that there's no abnormal, that the clearance doesn't shrink all of a sudden. Because if it did, then I'd have a high fret. No, it's pretty good. I already checked that, so I don't need to do it again. But I'm just telling you, it's one of the things that I do. So, not quite. Where's my strobe? These are great tuners, but strobe is faster. I don't know what the action is on the treble. Low E. Boy, that's comfortable up here. at the first fret now. Plays good. Plays good. Terrible GoPro microphone, but they're out of tune. Alright, well, we'll see you later. You got the concept, you got the gist of how to do a compression refret. I will say this, the third fret here, the one that I was having to file down and hammer on and all that kind of thing, it looks ugly. I don't know if I like it or not. I would not hesitate to pull that fret out and replace it. And I might not even replace it with a full tang. I might replace it with the 225 and clean that slot out. I might come back to that third fret and redo it. Don't hesitate to do something like that if you need to, you know. I'm not satisfied with it. I don't like the way it looks. It still isn't. The edges are still not right compared to the other frets. The other frets are great. This one looks like, man, got the dude filed on that one, you know. And even though it's crowned nicely, yeah, it's crowned really good. I'm looking at the shadow of the fret. It just doesn't look right. So, you know, I've got to do these frets up here. When I do that, I'll probably come back. I'll make a decision on this, either pull it or reshape it or work on it some more and that kind of thing. I'm in no hurry on this guitar, and it needs to be as good and as right as I can get it. So, man, that nut's nice. I did a good job on that one. So, see you later.